Discover Lands Unknown is one of Fantasy Flight's new, unique games, which means the contents in this box will be different to every other box. Here we have the bayou terrain, the island terrain, and even if you have these terrains in your box, the other components are going to be different. So you get a setup for each terrain, the different movement costs. I don't think this is too many spoilers here. A rule book, your terrain, and then various cards and tokens. The game generally works the same. Your character will have stamina, depending on player count, and then 3 health bars. The health bars all start in the middle on healthy, and then you can become poorly, hungry, or starving, dehydrated, and all of those types of wounds can be healed. But if you take a serious wound, that cannot be healed. Your stamina is used to perform actions during the day and refreshes a certain amount every night, at least 6 every night. If you ever take a 4th wound that you can't record on a dial, you die. So here's a basic setup. This isn't in the game. I've just made a basic one here to show you. We have an equipment deck which will have numbers on, and this again is where some of the uniqueness comes in. In the deck I'm using, I have I think 88 to 89, and just to give you an example, it's a decoy at the start, and they all have various powers and alike. Then you have an enemy deck and a exploration deck, and again these are uniquely numbered. The night deck will turn over at the end of each day and give you some events to combat. The scenario sets your goals, and you'll basically be moving around the map looking for food and water, as well as some of the unique things on the scenario. When you go on something, you can pick it up or gather it. You flip it over, which I'm not doing here because I don't want to spoil anything, and it will either be resources or an encounter. You can search the map and flip them over, and when you do, you fill the icon spaces with the relevant icons, apart from the red ones, as they will relate to events in the objectives. Monsters will move, and you may have to attack and fight them using the dice, with a very basic system and a little bit of mitigation. The compass tells you which way they will move based on the dice roll, and you'll do this until you achieve the objectives. There are 5 scenarios in the game. Discover Lands Unknown has had a lot of buzz and speculation in a similar way to Keyforge, the other unique game out at the minute. This has generated a certain amount of interest in the project and the differences between the box, because according to Fantasy Flight Games, you will get a unique box. There will be differences in it, be it the characters, the things you can make, the biomes you're exploring. It's a bold thing to do and an applause-worthy thing to do. It is genuinely trying to innovate, I believe, the industry and do something new. And by all accounts, for Keyforge, this has worked really well. However, for Discover Lands Unknown, I feel that the cost of that uniqueness has been the strength of the gameplay within the box. To start with, Discover made promising signs. I enjoyed working my way through the map, flipping over tiles, so much so that I forgot almost to try and achieve the objectives and just set about surviving. However, that quickly becomes difficult because of the night cards, which grow increasingly more difficult until you're just cycling through stage 2 night cards, which are very demanding, and you could feasibly spend all your action points just trying to prepare for the things that happen at night. And if resources are situated a long way from each other, then you're going to have trouble doing that, and you will eventually die. Added to this is the amount of luck in a game. Now, I don't mind luck in a game that is about survival. It seems like it should fit, because surviving is unpredictable. You don't know what's around the corner. But I just wish that luck was demonstrated in other ways. For example, you can go into a fight with an armed enemy, without trying to give too much away, but a heavily armed enemy, and you can win that fight armed with nothing but your wits. Now, yes, that's possible if your character is perhaps an SAS trained person, but it has nothing to do with that character. It has everything to do with the luck of a dice roll and whether you're willing to spend resources to mitigate that dice roll. Even if you are, you can only add on by one or re-roll the dice. So it is still luck based. It's not the type of mitigation that a lot of gamers like to see where they have to make tough choices. You're still throwing your survival into the arms of chance. Also, the characters themselves, certainly in the pack I got, there seemed to be a lot of difference between characters with useful abilities that can help you personally or help the whole group, and pretty average, borderline bad abilities. There was even one character that was totally out for themselves and could hold the other, try not to give it away again, but could negatively affect the other survivors, which again works into this curious nature of whether the game is co-op or competitive. Now, people have talked about it being a semi-co-op. I don't mind semi-co-ops when they work. I think I've played semi-co-ops that have worked, but Discover isn't really one of those, and I wouldn't even class it as a semi-co-op. If you do the fifth scenario, and this seems to be the same in all the copies, it's basically a battle royale. Otherwise, if you die, you're out, but other people can still win. Yes, if you cooperate, you're going to achieve the scenarios quicker and possibly more effectively, but if someone dies, they're not going to share in that victory. The other thing that is negatively affected by the uniqueness of this game is the strength of the storylines, which are generic, weak and vague in how they are linked together. By the end of the first scenario, I could pretty much take a guess at what was going to happen in the rest of the game in terms of story, which makes the story defunct, which makes the heavy luck-based exploring, as exciting as that can be if that were just the focus, less exciting because of the luck-based nature of it. The story doesn't really drive you to want to go to these places and explore, and due to vagacies in the rules, sometimes you are dead stuck not knowing what you need to do to further the story and thus progress off the scenario. I applaud the use of flavour text in a bit more of an important way. Sometimes keywords will appear in the flavour text and they're not highlighted, you actually have to read them. I think that's a pretty good thing to do. I wish it had been signposted a bit more than just one throwaway sentence in the rulebook, but there are steps here. Overall, if you like survival games where there is a progression, albeit not too heavy a progression, then you may find something you like in Discover. And certainly trying to see what the different biomes bring and the different games bring could be quite fun. If you and a friend decide to both buy a copy, you could then swap, or you could arrange a trade with someone else who's bought the game. However, if you're looking for the next big innovation in board games, while this may be part of it, the actual game that has come out the other end is not quite strong enough to hold that title. Discover is a game that I'm glad I have played, but once you have played through all 5 scenarios, there may be little reason to return to the biomes within Discover and attempt to survive again. So let's go through my usual rating system. Intimidation factor. Yeah, the uniqueness adds a bit of intimidation factor in. I think if you are newer to board games, then there's quite a lot to do, but it is explained in the majority of cases well. Apart from when it gets to those stuck moments. There's a lot to take in for a relatively simple game. So kind of midway intimidation there. If you've been gaming for a while, if you've particularly played Fantasy Flight games before, big box games, then you'll probably be more aware of how they structure their rulebooks, and it may not be as much of a problem. Rulebook is okay, not the best, not the worst. Some important information could be done with highlighting a little bit more clearly. Fun, well, certainly the exploration was fun. Turning over tiles and seeing what's there is fun. I just like exploring. I would have liked more excitement through the gameplay mechanics that back that up. The stamina system, where all your actions are directed by stamina, which refreshes every night but might not refresh as much as you'd like it to. The campfire system, where if you get back to a campfire, you're generally going to do better in the night phase. All work really well, but there's lots of things that push the fun back. The monsters can be so frustrating. The nighttime cars often require food or water from you, but you don't know which. It would have been much better, in my opinion, if you had every day that you survived, you had to produce a food and a water, or you had to have that at camp or something. You know, you could stockpile the food and water together, so you knew that was an expectation, freeing up the night cards to be more exciting and story-led events, rather than you all need to eat, all your food has gone off, you know, that sort of thing. The demands on the player from the night cards are just too random. And yes, once you've been through them, you know the kind of thing. But in a survival game, I want to do the things that replicate actual survival. So getting food and fresh water is important. Perhaps moving camp to where there's a supply of water is important. And none of those things really happen in this game. So the fun of the first kind of exploration of the island, which is the biome I had, quickly turned into a little bit of a chore. Would I add new discover lands unknown to my collection? I wouldn't add it to my collection. It's quite a bit short of that mark. Would I play it again? Oh gosh, it would have to be a totally different set to what I've seen, including the scenarios, and then I'm not sure I'd even want to go through another 5 scenarios of it. Am I glad I've played it? Yes, I am glad I've played it. I'm glad that I can say I've played through the scenarios of one of the first unique games. It's certainly an experience that, whilst not thoroughly enjoyable, I'm glad I've had. Would I recommend it to other people? If you're like me and you'd like to experience innovations in the industry as they happen, then sure, take it for a whirl. Maybe only buy a copy if you know you're going to want to trade it with someone else to get a slightly different experience. But for me, the uniqueness has not ruined, that's a bit too strong, has taken away from what could have been quite a special game otherwise. Thanks very much for watching Board Deck and Dice. We will see you next time.